In the summer of 1950, over lunch at Los Alamos, the physicist Enrico Fermi asked a question so simple it sounds like a joke, and so unsettling that scientists have argued about it for 70 years. The conversation had drifted to flying saucers and alien life, the way lunch conversations do. And then Fermi went quiet, did a little arithmetic in his head, and said, "Where is everybody?" Here is what he meant. Our galaxy is old. Not old like a person or a country or even a species, old like a number that stops meaning anything. The Milky Way has been turning for roughly 13 billion years. It holds somewhere between 100 and 400 billion stars. And we now know, thanks to NASA's Kepler Space Telescope, that planets are not rare, they are the default. Most of those stars have worlds, and a healthy fraction of them sit in the zone where liquid water could exist. Billions of possible homes, simmering for billions of years. Now run Fermi's arithmetic. Suppose just one civilization, somewhere anywhere, got a few million years head start on us. A million years is nothing against the age of the galaxy, the blink of an eye. And suppose that civilization did what life does, it spread. Even with slow ships, no warp drives, nothing magic, just rockets and patience, a single species could cross the entire galaxy in a few tens of millions of years. The whole thing, every star. Which means the galaxy should have been settled, visited, noticed, 1,000 times over before humans ever stood upright. It should be loud. It should be obvious. The night sky should be busy. And instead, there is nothing. For more than 60 years we have been listening. Radio telescopes sweeping the sky for a signal, any signal, a whisper of someone out there. Project after project has scanned star after star after star. And the result, every time, has been the same. Silence. A silence so complete it has a name. They call it the Great Silence. The numbers scream that the galaxy should be crowded, and the sky says we are alone. That contradiction is the Fermi Paradox. For a long time, that contradiction had a hopeful side, and it came with an equation. In 1961, the astronomer Frank Drake wrote down a now famous formula to estimate how many civilizations out there we might actually be able to talk to. You start with how fast stars are born, multiply by the fraction with planets, then the fraction of those that could host life, then the fraction where life turns intelligent, then the fraction of those that build something we could detect, and finally, how long such a civilization survives before it falls silent. Multiply it all together, and out drops a number. The trouble, and honestly the beauty, of the Drake equation is that it is less an answer than a way of organizing our ignorance. Feed it optimistic guesses, and the galaxy teems with company. Feed it gloomy ones, and we are utterly alone. For 60 years, people mostly just argued about which guesses to feed it. Hold on to that, because it comes back at the end with a twist. So where is everybody? Here is where it gets speculative, and I am going to be honest with you at every step about which parts are evidence and which parts are guesswork, because most of what comes next is guesswork. Nobody knows. What we have are hypotheses, and they fall into a few uncomfortable families. The first says the silence is real because the road from dead rock to star-faring civilization is almost impossible. Somewhere on that road there is a wall, a step so unlikely that almost nothing makes it through. The economist Robin Hanson gave this wall a name, the Great Filter, and there are plenty of candidates for where it might sit. Maybe the wall is the very origin of life itself, the jump from lifeless chemistry to the first thing that could copy itself, a step that may be a freak accident almost nowhere repeats. Maybe it is the leap from simple cells to complex ones, which on Earth in 4 billion years seems to have happened exactly once. Maybe it is intelligence or tool use or language. Wherever the filter sits, the logic is the same. We hear nothing because almost nothing ever gets this far. The second family says they are out there, and we simply cannot tell. Maybe advanced civilizations do not broadcast, because shouting into a universe whose intentions you cannot know is a good way to get noticed by the wrong neighbor. This is the dark forest idea, made famous by the novelist Cixin, and it is exactly as bleak as it sounds. Picture every civilization as a hunter creeping through a pitch-black forest. You cannot see the others. You cannot know if the stranger out there is friendly or frightened or already aiming at you. You cannot even know what they will have become by the time your hello finally reaches them. So the safest move, maybe the only safe move, is to make no sound at all and to quietly remove anything that does. If even some civilizations reason this way, the forest goes silent, not because it is empty, but because everyone who is still alive has learned to hide. Or maybe the answer is gentler than fear, and they simply use technology we cannot recognize, the way a radio signal would have meant nothing to someone 200 years ago. We could be standing in the middle of a conversation we do not have the senses to hear. And the third family is gentler still and stranger. Maybe they know we are here and they are leaving us alone. The zoo hypothesis. We are the exhibit, the wildlife on a protected reserve, watched from a respectful distance until we are ready. It is impossible to disprove, which is a polite way of saying it is a lovely story we cannot test. Pick your favorite, they are all plausible, they are all unproven, and every one of them, when you sit with it, opens a trapdoor. Because here is the catch, and it is the part that keeps me up at night. Go back to that great filter, the wall almost nothing crosses. There are only two possibilities, and they are not equally comforting. Either the filter is behind us, or it is ahead of us. If the filter is behind us, we are the lucky ones. We already passed the impossible step, maybe the origin of life 4 billion years ago, maybe the jump to complex cells. And the reason the sky is silent is simply that we are rare, maybe even first. Lonely, but safe. But if the filter is ahead of us, then the silence is a warning. It means civilizations do climb to roughly our stage again and again, and then something stops them. Every single time, before they spread, before they are heard, and we would be walking straight toward whatever that something is. This is why some scientists say, only half joking, that they hope we never find fossils on Mars. It sounds backwards. Would not life next door be the most thrilling discovery in history? But think it through. A second, independent origin of life right on our doorstep would mean life is easy, common, quick to start. And if the early steps are easy, then the filter, the wall that silences everyone, is probably not behind us. It is still out there, ahead, waiting. The more lifeless the universe looks, the better our own odds. That is the uncomfortable logic of the great silence. So that is the nightmare version. But I promised you the science, and the science has a twist that almost nobody talks about. In 2018, 3 researchers at the University of Oxford, Anders Sandberg, Eric Drexler, and Toby Ord, published a paper with a quietly devastating title, Dissolving the Fermi Paradox. Their argument went straight back to the Drake equation. For decades, people had been multiplying together their best single guesses for each term and getting a number. But some of those terms are not just uncertain. They are uncertain by factors of billions. We genuinely have no idea, for instance, how likely it is for life to begin at all. It could be common. It could be a 1 in a trillion fluke. And the Oxford team showed that when you do the math honestly, when you carry that staggering uncertainty all the way through instead of plugging in tidy averages, the result changes completely. You do not get a galaxy that should obviously be full. You get a vast spread of possibilities, and a real substantial chunk of them, by their estimate something like a third or more, land on a single answer. We are alone. Not alone because of a filter. Not alone because anyone is hiding. Alone because the universe is mostly empty, and somebody has to be the only ones, and it might just be us. If they are right, there is no paradox at all. The silence was never strange. We were simply fooled by our own optimism, mistaking we do not know for they must be out there. So where is everybody? The honest answer, the one the evidence actually supports, is that we do not know, and we may be the first ones who ever got far enough to ask. Maybe the galaxy is a graveyard of filters we were lucky to survive. Maybe it is a quiet forest full of things keeping their heads down. Or maybe, and the cold math leaves this wide open, maybe the silence is exactly what an empty universe sounds like, and we are the first spark of something that has never happened here before. That is the cosmic maybe. The science is real, the scale, the silence, the math. The rest is the most important guess our species has ever made. And every year we keep listening and the sky stays quiet, we narrow it down by one more star.